Watch, can Trump steal the election?
After Election Day in the U.S., all eyes were on these states, where this was happening. These poll workers are counting ballots that would decide the outcome of this election. But there's another reason why these states are critical. Republican lawyers have filed lawsuits in each one of these places in an attempt to sue their way to electoral victory. The one in Pennsylvania is about whether a portion of the ballots should be counted. Like everywhere else in the U.S., Pennsylvania had a mix of in-person and mail-in voting, and the difference between which type of voting Trump and Biden voters chose was huge. All of these mail-in votes that arrived before Election Day couldn't be counted until then. And ordinarily in Pennsylvania, any ballots that arrive after Election Day don't count at all. But because of the pandemic and mail delays, the state's highest court ruled that any ballots postmarked on Election Day and received up to 3 days after would be counted. But that batch of votes became contentious.
The Trump campaign very much wants these ballots thrown out, and it's because Democrats in this election were much more likely to vote by mail than Republicans were.
So the Trump campaign filed a motion with the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn the Pennsylvania court decision and throw out any ballots received after Election Day.
But should those 3 extra days of ballots matter, we believe will prevail at the Supreme Court.
Their hope is that the conservative majority Supreme Court will back them up. But what is the role of the Supreme Court in this election and for the future?
Good evening, everyone. This promises to be one of the closest races in American presidential history.
What are they thinking? He lost already. Most of those ballots have not been counted yet. Let's say we threw out those ballots. What's he gonna do then? He's still fucking lost. Like, I don't understand. Like, he lost without those ballots being counted. So what is he gonna do? He doesn't have enough money to trigger a recount. I believe it's not within the marginal point disparity that, like, you can actually trigger a recount or ask for a recount, so you got to pay for it. So what do you got to do? All you need to do is take the fucking L, dog. Like, seriously. Just take the L. Just say that they stole it, because a lot of these idiots will believe you regardless. And you can exit gracefully and then make all your money in the media operation that you're going to launch, where you know, talk about how fucking horrible the Democrats are for stealing the election from you. It's the perfect opportunity. People still believe you lost. If it goes to the court and then there's a legal proceeding where you spend even more money that you literally do not have currently, and then you permanently solidify you getting owned because there's just more fucking... There's just more votes. There's just more people that voted for for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. There's nothing you can do about that, okay? Anyway, let's get back to the fucking actual Vox video here.
The 2000 presidential race looms large over the question of whether a Supreme Court could step in to decide the fate of an election. In that case, the race came down to a single state, Florida, where the Supreme Court halted a recount, which handed George W. Bush the presidency with only 537 votes over Al Gore. It was an extremely close race.
I am honored, and I guess I better go write an inaugural speech.
But the 2020 election is entirely different. Republican lawyers have filed lawsuits in several states, but they likely won't alter the course of the election. That's because they involve a small percentage of ballots in comparison to Biden's lead, like one in Georgia that involved allegations of only 53 missing ballots, a state that Biden had been leading by nearly 2,000 votes by November 6th. Or another in Pennsylvania, which involved 93 ballots that had errors fixed, where Joe Biden was leading by at least 7,000 votes. Even a lawsuit in Nevada, which involves allegations of 3,000 out-of-state voters, wouldn't do much in a state where Joe Biden was already ahead by 22,000 votes.
So you're seeing these kind of rinky-dink lawsuits in a few states. I mean, they're hard to take seriously.
This is Ian Millhiser. He covers the Supreme Court for Vox.
Certainly, I think some of these lawsuits are more about creating a press narrative than they are about...
It absolutely is about creating a press narrative. The Georgia lawsuit was tossed today. Oh, nice.
About actually trying to win any kind of legal dispute.
There are some serious allegations out there that deserve being...
Like, this is the RNC chairwoman, dude. Your entire party is fraudulent. Like, Asmongold believes Biden stole the election. No, he does not. There's no fucking way. No, I don't believe that. There's no way. There's no fucking way. I don't believe it. Also, anyway, like I was saying, dude, this person is literally like this is the RNC chairwoman, yo. Like, this isn't some random fucking QAnon psycho, dude. There is no fixing this. Yo, whenever Biden says, like, we gotta reach across the aisle and give him a reach around, Jack, cut the malarkey. He's talking about her. He's talking about these people. He's talking about Ted Cruz. He's talking about Lindsey Graham. He is talking about these people. If all these lawsuits are useless, would SCOTUS actually have to deliver a Trump win? What? No. And they're not even real. Like, these lawsuits aren't fucking real anyway. These lawsuits aren't going anywhere. I just need to remind you that when Democrats say stuff like, we need to return to normalcy, it's only one fucking side that's saying that, you know? When Democrats say we need to return to normalcy, while Republicans are literally like, the election is fraudulent. I know the election is fraudulent because 6 dead people voted. It's like, dude, you can't. There is no conceding to these people, and there's no managing these people. Like, they're lost in the goddamn sauce. Wake the fuck up. You have to work around them. And the thing is, Republicans, when they have the opportunity to work with Democrats, they don't even want to do that. That's the worst part, because Democrats are concession prone. They want to work with the Republicans, right? They want to. They really, really, really want to. They love that shit. They love bipartisanship. And on a lot of instances, they do, like fucking American imperialism. Democrats and Republicans totally on board. They're best buds, okay? Never ending warfare, best buds, love you, reach across the aisle, give you a reach around, put one in the bussy, we're all good. Tax cuts for the wealthy. Oh no, I don't know. We're Democrats. Nope, just kidding. Of course we love tax cuts for the wealthy. We will do that for you. Even deregulation to a certain extent, they make concessions on. Republicans, knowing that, still don't want to fucking work with Democrats just because it looks bad for their base. You understand me? Republicans literally refuse to work with Democrats because they think it looks bad for their base and they don't want to get fucking primaried. So, because the primary attack from a fucking psychotic Republican is going to be, my opponent Ted Cruz actually worked with Nancy Pelosi. He's a communist. Okay? Meanwhile, on the Democratic side, we can't even get our shit in order. These people are crazy, dude. You can't actually fucking deal with crazy like this.
And the rule of law has lost its grip on the election process.
In other words, they sow distrust among Trump supporters who are showing up to polling locations claiming, without evidence, that the process isn't fair.
left the voting system wide open.
This is the court. Hold on. Mark Levin is such a fraud too. Mark Levin is going to suggest faithless electors. I'm just letting you know. Like his big idea literally is faithless electors vote for Donald Trump instead. Do what's right for America. Just for the record, that's literally his approach to this, okay? Like his big fucking five-head idea is just lie and cheat and steal the election from the dude who won. So it's just wild. Anyway, that's the last level of copium that they're on. One good thing about this election is that I found your channel, Moon2L. Oh, hell yeah. Who pays for the Trump lawsuits? Is it personal or taxpayer money? No, it's campaign funds. So it depends. If the election is within 1 point or within 0.5 points, depending on what state you're in, you can then trigger a recount for free without money that you pay for out of your pocket. But if it's above that, then they consider that to be ridiculous. Because like it's not like recounts actually overturn the process unless it's like a very specific instance. So they don't want to do recounts. So if you're over a point, like if you're down by 1 point, then fuck you. They're like, you have to pay. Like you literally have to pay out of pocket. So it's like $3 million in Wisconsin, I think, to like even get a recount, even trigger a recount. Just to remind everyone, this is what the GOP produced to the federal court last week to support their losing case. Yep, this is all just these two affidavits. This is one of 10 losses the other side has had in the court since E-Day 10. Draft declaration to attest to the fact that a roommate possibly stole my ballot. What? And pressured me to... I can't even read it. Wait, that's it? No. And then the second one is declaration with Chris Proudhome. Over the past 2 weeks, I've served as an observer of the mail processing ballots on behalf of the Trump campaign. Regardless, they did not accept my media credentials. "2020 isn't all bad. This shit is so funny. I love it in Trump laws. Good times, bro." Scoop inside the Trump's legal warfare. Oh yeah, he is gonna do. He's gonna do rallies. In Wisconsin, the sad truth: the cost of Stein Clinton's Wisconsin recount could have saved at least 5,000 children's lives. What? Will Ashton Kutcher star in Dude Who Took My Ballot? Yeah, woke austerity. All right, let's finish the Vox video. Sorry.
The voter fraud.
Your Biden's covering up this election. He's stealing it.
They claim that there is evidence of voter fraud. They still haven't produced evidence of that.
The president's allegations of large-scale fraud and theft of the election are just not substantiated.
There is one thing that I'm really worried about. This Pennsylvania lawsuit rests on a really radical and transformational theory.
Ian is referring to the Trump campaign's request that the Supreme Court throw out ballots received within 3 days of the election. That motion also won't alter the results, because when Joe Biden won Pennsylvania to become the president-elect, those late-arriving ballots weren't included in the official counts. They had been set aside pending a ruling. But what makes the lawsuit radical is that after the state Supreme Court granted a ballot extension in September, Pennsylvania Republicans took it to the U.S. Supreme Court a month later as part of an attack on mail-in voting. A 4-4 tied decision without Amy Coney Barrett upheld the law, which is why Pennsylvania kept the extension. But the 4 conservative justices indicated how they might rule on future election laws. And that would depend on a line in the Constitution about how...
Which would mean that the United States Supreme Court could overturn the results of a state Supreme Court decision that pertains to interstate matters.
State legislatures should determine the time, place, and manner of holding elections.
And the way that that word legislature has always been interpreted, going back at least more than a century, is that the word legislature means whatever the valid lawmaking process is within that state.
In addition to literal...
Can someone describe to me the constitutionalist argument for this?
Federal state legislatures, that includes the state constitution, the state Supreme Court that interpret those laws, and the governor's right to veto election laws.
But there are at least 4 justices who think that the word legislature should be read sort of hyperliterally, meaning only the legislative branch of the state.
Which means the state legislature alone could drastically impact voting rights. In states with Republican-led state legislatures, which are a majority of them, that would mean they would have the ability to create election laws that manufacture electoral advantages for Republicans in future elections. Actions like gerrymandering electoral districts, voter ID laws which target Democratic voters, and closing polling places in Democratic districts. And unlike Democratic legislatures,
the textualist argument for the decision is haha pee pee poo poo. Constitutionalists and originalists are bunk. Originalists originally interpret whatever legal issues they're addressing to achieve whatever political objective they personally prefer. Yeah, it's just that they're conservative and they have conservative fifis, and basically what they do is my fifis want me to go this way, which is a conservative way. Anyway,
they could look to the conservative majority Supreme Court.
They already do this, by the way, but they don't do it through the state legislature level. I mean, I guess they do.
For support.
Will the legitimate winner of the presidential election be sworn in as president on January 20? I'm pretty confident that's going to happen. But if the question you're asking me is, do I feel comfortable with the long-term health of U.S. democracy? No, not at all.
They're basically trying to end federalism while Dems are in power. My people wants to tell you that it wastes your non-offensive Irish accent in 9 minutes. Okay, you got it. Imagine thinking that voter ID laws are racist. I see no problem with it, lol. But they are. They absolutely are utilized in a racist capacity. I don't know if you're... He stole it, law. I can't tell if you're like being sarcastic or not. I really don't know. But for those of you who don't know, voter ID laws are used for racist intentions. Like, it's totally, absolutely, without a doubt, 100% done in a racist manner. You might not be educated on it, but I can explain it to you. First of all, stop saying how are voter ID laws racist. I'm about to tell you. So, first and foremost, you need to understand that just because a law doesn't literally explicitly state we are doing this to fuck over black people does not mean that that's not the purpose. And the example I can give you, the best example I can give you in this circumstance is the previous the previous laws that were set in place that were hurdles in front of people that would try to stop people from voting. Literacy test is one of those examples. A poll tax is another one of those examples. And finally, I don't care that he left. This is good information for all of you. And finally, lastly, a great example of this is the grandfather law. If your grandfather was not able to vote, then you're not able to vote either. Now, none of the things that I just mentioned to you directly say black people can't vote. You understand me? But it doesn't matter. The purpose and the design for why they did that, was so that black people wouldn't be able to vote, because they applied it, and they did it with selective enforcement. Now, part of what they do, and the poll tax actually happened again. There was a very famous Florida ballot measure where the overwhelming majority of people in Florida, including Democrats and Republicans, literally voted to restore felons' rights to vote. That was like 1.4 million Floridians that got their right to vote. And the guy who barely won the gubernatorial race, Ron DeSantis over Andrew Gillum, went and instituted what is known as a poll tax on those people and said unless they pay their court fees, they won't be able to vote. None of these things that I just mentioned explicitly state black people can't vote. But the intended outcome and the successfully implemented outcome was not allowing black people to vote. They do this all the fucking time. Don't get suckered into it. Voter ID laws, in the way that they impact the black community, are very clear. The North Carolina voter ID law is a perfect example of this. They legit looked up the DMV info in black communities to see how many black people actually had driver's licenses before they implemented voter ID laws. They look to see whether or not black communities have driver's licenses of the same degree. Then they shut down DMVs in black communities so that it's very difficult to get a fucking ID in right before election. Then they change the voter ID law so that you need a fucking ID to go out and vote. That's how it works. Do you now understand how the reason why they do that? Do you understand now how they implement this? A lot of Europeans look to us and say, I don't get it. Like, we have voter ID. This is kind of weird. Well, here's the deal. It's a lot easier for you to get a voter ID, even if it's not a literal fucking driver's license. If there was ease of access, it's the same thing with like compulsory voting. But the law doesn't say anything about black people. I know, but the reason why they do it is so that they can clap black people. They can stop black people from voting. They can stop poor people from voting. They can stop brown people from voting. Understand? In a lot of circumstances, the ID is not free, so you have to pay for it. In a lot of circumstances, you have to wait for fucking months on end to get your ID. There's so many different hurdles that you're adding on top of it. They never say black because that's illegal. That's illegal. Of course, they're not stupid enough to say it. Oh, wait, they literally do end up saying it sometimes. Right now in the United States of America, if you want to implement a hurdle in front of black people and get them to stop fucking voting, all you need to not do, because of the gutted Voter Rights Act that we currently have, all you need to not do in the United States of America is say, I'm doing this because I want to stop black people from voting. And guess what? Republicans are so fucking bad that they literally still get clapped up in the Supreme Court because they sometimes admit it. There was a dude who, I think, was it a guy who died? And like his hard drive was released to the courts. And in the hard drives, there's emails where he's literally like, I'm doing this suppression because I don't want black people to vote. Only then can they be like, all right, well, we can't fucking do this. I mean, he admitted it and it's illegal. Yeah, by his daughter. His daughter fucking turned his hard drive in. Disparate impact is a labor law that refers to employment, housing, and other areas that adversely affect one group or other of people of a protected characteristic more than another, even though rules apply to employers and landlords are formally neutral. How crazy is that, though? Chat? Huh? How fucking crazy is that shit? That the only way you can get clapped is if you literally admit that you're doing it. And people still can't get away with it sometimes. Oh, this is great. Yeah, the deceased GOP strategist hard drives reveal new details on the census citizenship question. Thomas B. Hofeller achieved near mythic status in the Republican Party as the Michelangelo of gerrymandering, the architect of partisan political maps that cemented the party's dominance across the country. After he died last summer, his estranged daughter discovered hard drives in her father's home that revealed something else. Mr. Hofeller had played a crucial role in the Trump administration's decision to add a citizenship question in the 2020 census. Files on those hard drives showed that he wrote a study in 2015 concluding that adding a citizenship question to the census would allow Republicans to draft even more extreme gerrymandered maps to stymie Democrats. And months... And... What? I think this clip is what you're looking for? Anyway, and months after urging President Trump's transition team to tack the question onto the census, he wrote the key portion of the draft Justice Department letter claiming the question was needed to enforce the 1965 Voting Rights Act, the rationale of administration later used to justify his decision. So the short and sweet of it is, in the fucking emails, he literally admits to it. More Blackstone Drive, lots live in cities with public transportation. That's one element of it too. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Anyway, but here's another element that you guys are unaware of. It's top of the hour every hour, which means it's ad time.